Firewatch had potential to be one of the most interesting, impactful, and unique experiences I've ever had with a video game. While I wouldn't say it completely lived up to my expectations, it still did a lot of things right, and today that's what we're here to talk about. So, Firewatch is not one of your traditional video games. It's one of those games that really makes you ask, do video games have to be fun? My answer is no to that, but I may make a more in-depth video about it in the future. As a quick warning, there will be spoilers in this video, but not till later, so I'll warn you again then. Alright, so Firewatch is a game based on its story, themes, and characters. It follows Henry, who travels to the Wyoming wilderness in 1989 to work in a fire tower while watching for fires. Except that's not really why he's out there. The reason Henry is out in this remote location is to escape the problems of his life, which is one of the main themes of the game. You see, Henry was a pretty happily married guy, until his wife started to develop dementia and things just went downhill from there. Now with his wife living away from home, Henry takes the job just to escape everything and take a break. That's the start of the game. To be honest, being younger, I wouldn't say that I really connected with Henry or could really understand what going through something like that would feel like. I've heard lots of other reviewers from married people realizing how difficult that would be. Despite that, I still felt bad for him and understood his motivations and such. So, after you get settled in to your tower and go to sleep for the first time, the daily routine begins. This game is split up into days, usually taking place during the day, but sometimes at night. At the beginning, you go from day to day, but closer to the end, days start to skip by, sometimes around 10 days at a time. So, each day you travel around and do tasks in Shoshone National Forest, where the game takes place. Although, all throughout this, you are accompanied by your supervisor, Delilah. The two of you speak through a radio, and you're given dialogue options on how to respond to her. Although, all they do is affect the immediate response. There's no long-term effects that change the ending or something. Anyways, this is where the game truly shines. Both characters are likable and interesting, the writing is accurate, funny, and actually sounds like two people having a conversation. The voice acting is top-notch, everything is just so good. You get to form a relationship with both Henry and Delilah, learning more about them and their emotions and seeing the two of them grow closer. This is what Firewatch is really about. Human interactions, how people act in certain situations, and how their emotions and everything like that affects them. But okay, I do admit that just listening to two people talk for an entire game would probably get kinda bland. That's why there's also a mystery story lurking in the forest. In the first few days, you get a sense that something is off, and eventually weirder and weirder things keep happening. Something definitely happened in this forest, and you have to find out what. This is where some of the best voice acting and dialogue comes into play. Paired with a great soundtrack, you can feel suspense and fear in such a huge open-world forest where you know you aren't safe. The dialogue lets you feel how Henry and Delilah are feeling. It's so good at just selling emotion, but more about this mystery stuff in the spoiler section. So that's about all I can say with the story without getting into spoiler territory. Even though this is the most important part of the game, I still have some other things to discuss. First of all, this game is pretty short. I bought it and beat it in this one sitting. It only took me about 3 hours to complete, but I was okay with that since I bought it at a cheap price. It was on sale for $5 on my Switch, so I definitely think it was worth it, as I'm sure I'll replay it in the future. The gameplay in this game, as you can tell, takes a backstage to the rest of the game. Still, it's not bad, it's just not the most interesting. All you really do is traverse the wilderness, making your way to your next objective. Unlike so many games these days, you don't actually get a marker beacon or anything like that. You have to go old school and use a map and compass to travel around. The map still has a marker, but I'm okay with that. It felt organic and like I was actually using the resources I had to make my way around, even if I got lost a few times. Well, you can't just go from one objective to the next. There's all sorts of things to find in the wilderness. None of them actually help you out, or at least not that I think. There might be some hidden items that I just didn't find, but all the items I did find were vital to the story and were required to be found. Most of what you can find are Easter eggs, backstory, or just random interesting stuff. Each one gives you a unique conversation with Delilah, so that's nice. Plus there's a reference to The Last of Us, so that's cool. Well, I can't say this really happened a lot. The way items react to each other actually seemed to be more complex than I was expecting. I was only impressed by this once, and that's when I had this speaker blasting annoying music and I was right next to a lake. Yes, so you can predict what happened next. The speaker actually broke in the lake and even affected some dialogue later in the game. Moving on from the gameplay, there's the graphics. So, based on what I had seen, either gameplay or that stunning PS4 theme, I was excited to jump into what looked like a beautiful game with a simplistic but colorful style. But oh man, if there's one thing I regret about this game, it's buying it on my Switch. Handheld mode was like actually unbearable. It looked like garbage. Everything was just so pixelated and just plain ugly. I was actually blown away. I'd never seen a game that looked so bad in handheld mode. So instantly I plopped it into the dock, and while it was better, everything still looked pretty bad. I'm fine with unrealistic or slightly pixelated graphics, but I just was expecting so much more. Some scenes were still pretty stunning, but just walking around with all the ugly trees and blocky landscapes was not the most appealing. Despite this, the frame rate was fine, and I only had one game-breaking glitch that forced me to restart an entire day, which was not the best. Alright, so now it's time to get into spoilers. To skip past them, go to the time on the screen. It shouldn't be too long. Okay, spoiler time. So the main criticism that Firewatch gets is its ending, and while I understand some people's frustrations, once I really understood what the game was going for, I wasn't mad, and I actually thought it was pretty good. To be honest, I never saw the ending as rushed or anything like that. In terms of the reveal of the mystery, I do understand why some people found that, well, underwhelming and kind of anticlimactic. Although, for such a realistic game, I'm not sure what anyone was expecting. It's not going to be something totally out there, but instead something believable, like a father trying to cover up his son's death. But really, I believe the most controversial part is never getting to actually meet or see Delilah. She said she would wait for you, but then her tower is empty. You say some sad and short goodbyes, and the game is over. You spent so much time with her, talking with her, just wondering what kind of person was in that faraway tower, and you never really get to find out. Except, I think this really drove home the theme of running away from problems and eventually realizing that you can't. Not seeing Delilah really gets the player and Henry out of this dazed, almost fantasy world that he had been in for the past months. He was done with his break, and it was time to go back to reality and face the problems in his life, which hadn't changed. Even with the father and son, the father just ran away from everything, and now he's this creepy psychopath who practically tries to kill Henry. I enjoyed the ending and thought it was important to the story. A happy ending with meeting Delilah just wouldn't have fit, taking everything into consideration. But anyways, what do you guys think? Leave your opinions in the comments below, and this review is coming to an end. Overall, I really did enjoy Firewatch, and despite the graphics, I'm sure playing it on a PS4 or PC would be a lot better and more enjoyable, something I hope to do in the future. I'll give Firewatch an A- for some excellent characters and a great story. Thank you guys for watching this video, and please like and subscribe if you enjoyed. I hope to see you soon.